Hi there. It's day number 309 in our Digging Deeper Daily calendar. And so, today we read Ezekiel 42 and 43, Isaiah 18, and Hebrews 12. And I'm so glad you're back with me. Praise the Lord. Let's start together in Ezekiel 42. In yesterday's tour of the ideal temple, we viewed the sanctuary and most holy place. Ezekiel 42. Heading: Two buildings near the temple. Then the man took me into the outer courtyard and led me to a building on the north side of the temple, not far from the building at the west end of the temple. This building was 168 feet long and 84 feet wide. On one side it faced the space 34 feet wide, which was alongside the temple, and on the other side it faced the pavement of the outer courtyard. It was built on 3 levels, each one set further back than the one below it. Along the north side of this building was a passageway 16 feet wide and 168 feet long, with entrances on that side. The rooms at the upper level of the building were narrower than those at the middle and lower levels because they were set further back. The rooms at all 3 levels were on terraces and were not supported by columns like the other buildings in the courtyard. At the lower level, the outer wall of the building was solid for 84 feet, half its length, and there were rooms in the remaining 84 feet. At the top level, there were rooms in the entire length of the building. Below these rooms, at the west end of the building, where the wall of the courtyard began, there was an entrance into the outer courtyard. At the south side of the temple there was an identical building not far from the building at the west end of the temple. In front of the rooms there was a passageway just like the one on the north side. It had the same measurements, the same design, and the same kind of entrances. There was a door under the rooms on the south side of the building at the east end where the wall began. The man said to me, "Both these buildings are holy. In them the priests who enter the Lord's presence eat the holiest offerings. Because the rooms are holy, the priests will place the holiest offerings there, the offerings of grain and the sacrifices offered for sin or as repayment offerings. When the priests have been in the temple and want to go to the outer courtyard, they must leave in these rooms the holy clothing they wore while serving the Lord. They must put on other clothes before going out to the area where the people gather." Heading: The measurements of the temple area. When the man had finished measuring inside the temple area, he took me out through the east gate and then measured the outside of the area. He took the measuring rod and measured the east side, and it was 840 feet. Then he measured the north side, the south side, and the west side. Each side had the same length, 840 feet, so that the wall enclosed a square 840 feet on each side. The wall served to separate what was holy from what was not. Ezekiel 43. Heading: The Lord returns to the temple. The man took me to the gate that faces east, and there I saw coming from the east the dazzling light of the presence of the God of Israel. God's voice sounded like the roar of the sea, and the earth shone with the dazzling light. The vision was like the one I had seen when God came to destroy Jerusalem, and the one I saw by the Kebar River. Then I threw myself face downward on the ground. The dazzling light passed through the east gate and went into the temple. The Lord's Spirit lifted me up and took me into the inner courtyard, where I saw that the temple was filled with the glory of the Lord. The man stood beside me there, and I heard the Lord speak to me out of the temple. "Mortal man, here is my throne. I will live here among the people of Israel and rule them forever. Neither the people of Israel nor their kings will ever again disgrace my holy name by worshiping other gods or by burying the corpses of their dead kings. The kings built door sills and doorposts of their palace right against the door sills and doorposts of my temple, so that there was only a small wall between us. They disgraced my holy name by all the disgusting things they did, and so in my anger I destroyed them. Now they must stop worshiping other gods and remove the corpses of their kings. If they do, I will live among them forever." And the Lord continued, "Mortal man, tell the people of Israel about the temple, and let them study its plan. Make them ashamed of their sinful actions. Then if they are ashamed of what they have done, explain the plan of the temple to them, its designs, its entrances and exits, its shape, the arrangement of everything, and all its rules and regulations. Write all this down for them so that they can see how everything is arranged and can carry out all the rules. This is the law of the temple. All the area surrounding it on the top of the mountain is sacred and holy." Heading: The altar. These are the measurements of the altar, using the same unit of measure as in measuring the temple. All around the base of the altar there was a gutter, 20 inches deep and 20 inches wide, with a rim at the outside edge 10 inches high. The lowest section of the altar, from the top of the base, was 4 feet high. The next section was set back from the edge 20 inches all around and was 7 feet high. The section after that was also set back from the edge 20 inches all around. This top section, on which the sacrifices were burned, was also 7 feet high. The projections on the 4 corners were higher than the rest of the top. The top of the altar was square, 20 feet on each side. The middle section was also square, 24 feet on each side, with a rim at the outside edge 10 inches high. The gutter was 20 inches wide. The steps going up the altar were on the east side. Heading: The consecration of the altar. The sovereign Lord said to me, "Mortal man, listen to what I tell you. When the altar is built, you are to dedicate it by burning sacrifices on it, and by sprinkling on it the blood of the animals that were sacrificed. Those priests belonging to the tribe of Levi, who are descended from Zadok, are the only ones who are to come into my presence to serve me. I, the sovereign Lord, command this. You will give them a young bull to offer as a sacrifice for sin. You are to take some of its blood and put it on the projections on the top corners of the altar, on the corners of the middle section of the altar, and all around its edges. In this way you will purify the altar and consecrate it. You are to take the bull that is offered as a sacrifice for sin and burn it at the specified place outside the temple area. The next day you are to take a male goat without any defects and offer it as a sacrifice for sin. Purify the altar with its blood the same way you did with the bull. When you have finished doing that, take a young bull and a young ram, both of them without any defects, and bring them to me. The priests will sprinkle salt on them and burn them as an offering to me. Each day for 7 days you are to offer a goat, a bull, and a ram as sacrifices for sin. All of them must be without any defects. For 7 days the priests are to consecrate the altar and make it ready for use. When the week is over, the priests are to begin offering on the altar the burnt offerings and fellowship offerings of the people. Then I will be pleased with all of you. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. Let's turn now to Isaiah 18. Yesterday we heard of Damascus and Syria and Israel. Isaiah 18, heading, God will punish Ethiopia. Beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, there is a land where the sound of wings is heard. From that land, ambassadors come down the Nile in boats made of reeds. Go back home, swift messengers. Take a message back to your land divided by rivers, to your strong and powerful nation, to your tall and smooth-skinned people who are feared all over the world. Listen, everyone who lives on earth. Look for a signal flag to be raised on the mountain tops. Listen for the blowing of the bugle. The Lord said to me, I will look down from heaven as quietly as dew forms in the warm nights of harvest time, as serenely as the sun shines in the heat of the day. Before the grapes are gathered, when the blossoms have all fallen and the grapes are ripening, the enemy will destroy the Ethiopians as easily as a knife cuts branches from a vine. The corpses of their soldiers will be left exposed to the birds and the wild animals. In summer the birds will feed on them, and in winter the animals. A time is coming when the Lord Almighty will receive offerings from this land divided by rivers. This strong and powerful nation, this tall and smooth-skinned people who are feared all over the world. They will come to Mount Zion, where the Lord Almighty is worshipped. Now, turning to Hebrews 12. After recounting the more victorious heroes of faithful believing, the author spoke about all those unnamed people who victoriously suffered because of fully believing. The faith chapter ends with this: all these people earned a good reputation because of their fully believing, yet none of them received all that God had promised. For God had something better in mind for us, so that they would not reach perfection without us. Hebrews 12. As for us, we have this large crowd of witnesses around us. So then, let us rid ourselves of everything that gets in the way, and of the sin which holds on to us so tightly, and let us run with determination the race that lies before us. Let us keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, on whom our believing depends from beginning to end. He did not give up because of the cross. On the contrary, because of the joy that was waiting for him, he thought nothing of the disgrace of dying on the cross, and he is now seated at the right side of God's throne. Think of what he went through, how he put up with so much hatred from sinners. So do not let yourselves become discouraged and give up. For in your struggle against sin, you have not yet had to resist to the point of being killed. Have you forgotten the encouraging word which God speaks to you as his children? My child, pay attention when the Lord corrects you, and do not be discouraged when he rebukes you. Because the Lord corrects everyone he loves, and punishes everyone he accepts as a child. Endure what you suffer as being a father's punishment. Your suffering shows that God is treating you as his children. Was there ever a child who was not punished by his father? If you are not punished, as all his children are, it means that you are not real children, but bastards. In the case of our human fathers, they punished us and we respected them. How much more, then, should we submit to our spiritual Father and live? Our human fathers punished us for a short time, as it seemed right to them, but God does it for our own good, so that we may share His holiness. When we are punished, it seems to us at the time something to make us sad, not glad. Later, however, those who have been disciplined by such punishment reap the peaceful reward of a righteous life. Lift up your tired hands, then, and strengthen your trembling knees. Keep walking on straight paths, so that the lame foot may not be disabled, but instead be healed. Try to be at peace with everyone, and try to live a holy life, because no one will see the Lord without it. Guard against turning back from the grace of God. Let no one become like a bitter plant that grows up and causes many troubles with its poison. Let no one become immoral or unspiritual like Esau, who for a single meal sold his rights as the older son. Afterward, he wanted to receive his father's blessing, but he was turned back because he couldn't find a way to change what he had done, even though in tears he looked for it. You have not come, as the people of Israel came, to what you can feel, to Mount Sinai with its blazing fire, the darkness and the gloom, the storm, the blast of a trumpet, and the sound of a voice. When the people heard the voice, they begged not to hear another word, because they could not bear the order which said, "If even an animal touches the mountain, it must be stoned to death." The sight was so terrifying that Moses said, "I am trembling and afraid." Instead, you have come to Mount Zion and to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem with its thousands of angels. You have come to the joyful gathering of God's firstborn, whose names are written in heaven. You have come to God, who is the judge of all people, and to the spirits of good people made perfect. You have come to Jesus, who arranged the new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that promises much better things than the blood of Habel. Be careful then, and do not refuse to hear him who speaks. Those who refused to hear the one who gave the divine message on earth did not escape. How much less shall we escape, then, if we turn away from the one who speaks from heaven? His voice shook the earth at that time, but now he has promised, "I will once more shake not only the earth, but heaven as well." The words, "once more," plainly show that the created things will be shaken and removed, so that the things that cannot be shaken will remain. Let us be thankful then, because we receive a kingdom that cannot be shaken. Let us be grateful and worship God in a way that will please Him, with reverence and awe, because our God is indeed a destroying fire. Please pray together with me. Lord Jesus, our exalted High Priest, we praise you. May we keep up our determination. Keep us walking on straight paths directly to you. May we not turn away from trusting in your gracious kindness to start trusting in ourselves and what we can do in our power. And let us never feel smug and satisfied, so that the devil tricks us into immorality. Thank you that the writer of Hebrews did not say, "You will come," or you are coming. But he said, You have come, now, already come, to the heavenly Mount Zion and the heavenly Jerusalem. And so many angels and people joyfully welcome us there into a kingdom that cannot be shaken. So let us keep our eyes on you, Jesus. May we count suffering a joy because we want to be like you. And may we find peace in enduring suffering because we remember that it is proof that we are the Father's lawfully adopted children. May we live today in awe, believing in these things by faith and not by sight.